Hi folks, so very late hour here by me, and I'm lying in bed and really just wanted to share some thoughts. It was a video that I wanted to do today, but I never got around to doing it, and I've been thinking about it, and it's been somewhat evolving, the ideas and the thoughts in my head, so I thought let me share them as best as I can at this late hour. And also it's heavy. It's a heavy it's heavy thoughts to be having at this time of the evening, and that is I wanted to don't think I would title this do we dig our own graves? Okay, but I think there is something to that. I think that we do to certain degrees dig our own graves. Sometimes it's out of sheer ignorance. Sometimes it's just part of our karma, I think, and sometimes it's part of our destiny. Sometimes like you got to fall over the stumbling blocks that you didn't even know where they were there, in order to get back up again. So this is the polarity of things. You needed to be put into a predicament, right? You needed to be put into a paper bag in order to fight your way out. And part of the predicament is that you needed to come into this world a conscious being and then become unconscious and then become conscious again, right? And easier said than done, obviously, but that's like a prerequisite, I think, for this life. I mean, before you come into this life, I think there is some kind of discussion, on the cards on the table that says, look, this is how it goes. This is just part of the formality of things. This is how it works, and you're going to get lost. You're really going to get lost, and it's probably highly unlikely that you're going to find your way back. And so you're going to have to do this a number of times until you get it right. And so there's that consideration, okay, that we needed to be blinded at some stage in order so that we could see. This is very hard to understand. So for myself, I was needing to be born into the family that I did, and I've spoken about my family and my upbringing, and it wasn't a bed of roses, that's for sure. Absolutely not. I don't think for any awakening soul or spirit to reflect back on their upbringing and their conditioning and traumas and all their circumstances, that they could, say that it's been easy, or say that it was a smooth ride, or to say that there isn't some still wounds and pains and regrets and shamefulness or just traumas that are still hanging around. And in hindsight, I mean, it's hard to get the bigger picture. That's like I chose this kind of this situation to be born into to a certain degree, or maybe I didn't choose, but maybe this was necessary. So it's again very hard to understand, even for myself. I mean, to really heal from one's past, to understand that you needed to go through what you needed to go through. That's part of one's destiny, right? And then there's a part of us that chooses that along the way we seem to be presented with a possibility, a choice of saying, okay, I want to get my life into better order. I want to reconnect with my authenticity, with my conscience, with my spirit, with my soul. I want to connect with the truth, in a sense, and I want to live a true life, and I want to live a meaningful life, I want to live a purposeful life. And that, I think, is on the individual responsibility, and the choice is given to the individual. And in the beginning, it's such small choices, and the choices are so subtle. I mean, you can barely even see them because you're so brain fogged, you're so mind controlled, you're such an automaton, you're so well programmed that the choices might be there, but they're so subtle that you don't even pick up on them. But slowly and surely, inch by inch, like literally, I mean, not even, just step by step, takes weeks, months, years, right, to where one gets the ability to, where the choices don't become so subtle, to move towards consciousness, to move integrity, to move towards godliness, etc., to health, to love, to beauty, to meaning, right? But okay, so it's not obvious in the beginning, and then so that's what's given to the individual. But still, there's so much we are still so blinded of, and we still really not. There's so much we still don't see, so we still falling over massive stumbling blocks. Okay, and it takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes confidence, and it takes courage, and these things are something that was very much disturbed or interrupted or taken away in childhood and one's own development. Your structure, your establishment, your fiber of your being was stripped away from you. So it's like to regain that. Anyways, so what I'm saying is that, okay, so inevitably I think we can make our lives somewhat better. Okay, I do think we can. And obviously at a, 20 years old, 18 years old, 25, 35, 45, 50, 60, we can make our lives somewhat better and more meaningful. That's the choice of ours. And also depending on one's determination, one's convictions, one's courage, one's confidence, that's the determining factor. It's yourself. It's like, okay, the ball's in your court, right? How far you want to go, how far you want to grow, okay? And that's easier said than done, because again, you have a specified circumstances that you're dealing with in life, alright, just in general. Okay, so you see, there's much going on here. Part of it is just destiny. Part of it is just, being tailor-made for you, right? But sometimes in the most horrific ways possible. So you're going to be tested on your. I think faith is always tested for everybody in this game of life and this experience. I think faith is one of the main things that's tested. Meaning is always tested. It's constantly tested throughout one's life. Right? Your own confidence is something that's going to be tested in your own life. But what I'm saying is that each one of us have subscribed specific circumstances that supposedly, yes, through some of our choices, through some of the actions that we've taken, the consequences that we're facing, is through our own doing. Some of it's also just been tailor-made, right, to teach us the lessons that we need to be taught. Okay. So we've all been put in certain narratives and stories and scripts and whatever it is in our own way, in order to, let's say from a point of view that's somewhat sometimes out of our control, or something like that. Or you could just be walking and somebody skips the stop street and knocks you over, right? And you were walking, you weren't jaywalking. You were. The person who hit you was drinking and driving and something or other. And so this is life circumstances that we don't seem to have control over. Again, what we seem to have control over is our attitude to the situation, to our reality that we met with. Our attitude, our mood, and our choice of how we best going to come this, or how we're going to manage this. And so this is a tough game, folks. This is a really, really tough struggle. And so for myself, when I hear about other people's situations of where they're at in their own lives, okay, and their circumstances around them, the empath in me, and putting myself in their shoes, refuses to accept that this is divine. Like I cannot do that. I mean, I'm just not on that level. It's like I don't know what to say to people. Some people that share stories that I feel that they didn't necessarily deserve, experiences they didn't deserve from my standpoint. I know that what they're going through, I wouldn't have the courage or the strength to face what they're going through. That's what I believe. I feel in my own right. I have enough of a hard time understanding that, even though in my own life, I mean, where I was back in 2007, where I was holding was in a very, very bad place. Like, if I had to see myself now from where I was then, I would say that that's not justice, that's not fair, that's unreasonable, that's not destiny, that's not karma, baby, that's not purpose, that's not meaning, right? That's not choice. That was just absolute hell, okay? Because I had no guidance. I was absolutely lost. I was self-destructive. Something that would go wrong in my life, my car would break down, I'd have no money to fix it, I would turn to the bottle, right? And I would punish myself by drinking more. I'm saying, vodka was my choice of poison. And I would punish myself, and I would overeat, and I would justify whatever I was doing because my life sucked and was so bad. I was really felt so broken inside and unfixable and without meaning and purpose and without direction. I'm saying great despair, great darkness. Right? And when I look at myself now, then, to where I was then, I'd say that that's not redeemable. What I went through is not redeemable, okay? Even sometimes in my own life now, certain things are not redeemable. I'm saying then I can, but there's certain moments that happen, and a moment can come, folks. Tragedy can strike at any time for me, and it'll leave me. I get worried over. Like, I won't have the courage, I won't have the ability, I won't have the strength, I won't have the faith to move beyond what happens. I won't have the heart for it. I won't have the strength. I won't have the foresight, right, to be able to appreciate or understand, not even appreciate, just manage that situation. I mean, small things get the better of me, folks. Small things. For example, people stealing the copper piping. I mean, I'm renting this house, but like small things that don't have to happen. I lost my wallet the other day. When it sounds like small things, but like then I had to wait for 4.5 hours in the licensing department, and I just feel so sometimes sorry for myself, and sometimes it's like, this doesn't make sense. And I mean, small things, that's small, but I mean something big, I don't know what I would do, folks. I live in that fear. I really do. So what am I saying? So okay, so let's take this back. So for myself, sometimes I feel okay with what's going on, the challenge at hand for me, right? My loneliness, living in this world that we're living in, as a sensitive, empathic person, just my environment. Specifically, just really having to come from the past and future not looking bright for this country and my situation in it and whatever it is, and the troubled family that I coexist with relatively, right? The lack of good, healthy, nutritional food around me, good, healthy air to breathe, healthy water to drink. I try my utmost. I got water filters. I try and grow my own food relatively okay, but that's the bare basics. I try and take care of my health. I try and not, be around too much Wi-Fi and wireless, and I try and be more in nature. I try and do a bit of exercise, whatever it is. I try and play the didge or some musical instrument or something like. I try, and that's and I get by, and I feel very, very blessed. I do. Some days I feel blessed, other days I just feel hopeless. That's just the way it goes. But I feel that I have made an effort. That's what I'm saying. I have made an effort, and I can feel a sense of pride. Okay, now pride is something that's very bad apparently, or something like that, so maybe it's not the right word, but it works for now. Just a sense of pride, a sense as in in Yiddish, in Hebrew, I think it was Yiddish, I say nachas, when you, I don't know how to explain nachas, but just like when a parent has nachas for their child, they're proud of their child. I'm proud of myself and what I've been through, what I've gone through, what I've able to manage, and have gotten myself into a place at this present moment where my life is in a relatively good balance. Although I know that balance can be thrown out tomorrow morning, which is the dread, the existential dread of the what if, of the unknown, right? But then again, I also have to have that relationship while I'm in good hands, and I'll make. You see, this is very difficult. Anyway, so that's it for myself, and and whatever it is. But life's challenging and life's tough, and I know some people in my life that literally have made their life worse. There's no question about it. They literally have dug their own grave. They've literally painted themselves into a corner. And they've done that because they haven't believed in themselves. They really, I could speak about somebody, a lady that I know, who's isolated on a farm. And I've spoken about it before, and I even feel bad mentioning her name. But just how, those people who sabotage themselves so, they victimize themselves to such a large degree that they become absolutely helpless, and then everything around them just turns to shit, and they get so stuck and so meshed into trauma and problems and chaos that they cannot find themselves a way out of it, and neither do they want to find their way out of it, but yet they're still squirming and fighting and and uncomfortableness and whatever it is, and they still but it seems like it's too late. It's already too late. Like they just don't seem, they've taken out all the components or all the options. They've said no too many times, and now their goose is cooked, and they know that, and they know it, and they're in fear of it, but they'd rather be in that fear, and they'd rather have their goose cooked, and they'd rather be painted into a corner than believing in themselves. I'm telling you, believing that they have the courage, believing they have the capability, the strength, or the patience, or the virtue, or the direction, or something or other. They really, they've dishonored themselves to that degree. They've relinquished their own freedom of choice, right? In fact, they've utilized their freedom of choice. They've just decided to play victim. They've decided to have given up as much as they possibly can, because they felt more true by giving up and surrendering to their helplessness than they would to employ their strength, to bring out their strength. That's the last thing that they would want to do. The last thing that I've been working with people for about 10, 15 years, let's just say 10 years, right, people in my life, and I'm telling you, the last thing that they want to do is find their own strength. That's the last thing, that's the biggest fear. They are more scared of their light than they are of their darkness. They're willing to swim in their darkness, right? Be overtaken by it rather than know their light. For them to know their light is the biggest sin. The biggest of sins. It's the last place they actually want to go. They'd rather die than go towards their light. And they'll fight screaming and shouting, to not go anywhere towards that, because they just don't believe in it. They don't have a self-value. They don't have a self-purpose, meaning. Right? I want to talk about this as well. How we feel invalid, how we feel useless, how we feel helpless. There's another word for it. I wrote a few of these words down. Right? How we feel that we don't deserve anything much better. We deserve the absolute worst, right? Times 10. Okay? It's like if we landed up in hell, we'd probably say, well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But if you landed up in heaven, you'd be like, no, there's something wrong here. I'm saying after you die, no, there's something wrong here. Heaven doesn't resonate with my being inside. Hell resonates with me. That's what I feel I deserve. people don't feel that they deserve any better. They don't. Anyway, so I don't want to keep this too much longer. It's getting later for me than it is, and I'm not being disciplined by getting to bed at a relatively earlier time, and breaking my own rules here. I don't really have rules, but I don't know what to say when I hear other people's stories, right? I don't know I can't believe it. I don't know how to handle people that have, when I hear stories of people that were in concentration camps, which there are very few of still surviving. But people, it's just so hard. I mean, it's just so hard to understand what's gone on in human history, to understand the war, to understand the depravity, the raping, the pillaging, the killing, right? A man returns from a day of hunting in the field or a trip, and he returns home and his whole family have been killed off, and his house has been burnt down to the ground, and everybody in the town has fled. And I mean, something like that. It's like, I don't know how. I don't know how we bear it. I mean, I can only say in my life up till now how I've managed to somewhat bear it. But going forward, I hope I have the strength to bear what's ever to come. Gee whiz, that's a prayer, folks. That's a prayer that we should feel that we've made it this far, and going any further that we have the strength, that we found it, and not found it. It is the Holy Grail in a way. You've discovered it. But can it last you? Can it hold you together? Can it keep you strong? I don't know. But so for myself, okay, I can understand for myself, but not for others. I can't understand and relate to others. It's just something I just cannot do. Because again, if I put myself in their shoes, I don't know how I would manage. I don't know how I would cope. I don't. And I don't know how I would make sense of it, even from an outside perspective. When I look at others and I hear their stories, I don't understand still from a bigger perspective, a higher perspective, whether it's karma, destiny, out of the person's own choices, right, and actions and consequences, or whether it's just in their astrological charts, or it's just their script, or it's just what they've needed for their own personal growth. That all falls away. That all falls away when I see a child that's disabled a lot of the time, right? When I see what goes on in African countries and this country that I live in. I see a lot of homeless people on the streets. I've spoken about this a lot, especially homeless people, like a pandemic of homeless people. A lot of these people have turned to drugs, right, and they've landed up on the streets. And you can see them, and that's a lot of their stories. And what they were doing, they were running away from their own pain, right? They didn't know. Maybe they were 9 years old, smoking a crack pipe, didn't know any better. Their friends were doing it, and now they're hooked. They got no support, right? Their family has abandoned them because they've robbed from their family, right? So they've got no support, nothing, and they're out on the streets. What do they have? Now they've got to fight their way back. Is that even possible for them? Right? Surrounded by all other drug addicts, having to steal people's copper piping and mug people and break into cars and do whatever it is, shoplift, in order to get by, in order to just so you can get your next fix. I mean, this is what life's about. That's what it's come to. Because everybody else has turned their back on them. And again, you can see that a lot of the homeless people, all they're looking for is just love. More than money, more than even food sometimes. It's just recognition. Because a lot of the time they turn to the drugs in the first place because they were abandoned. They were orphaned in a way. Even though they were living within their family, they were rejected. So they ran away and they turned to some kind of drug to make themselves feel better. Little did they know. But this is reality, so this is how life goes. So it's difficult. It's like, and then what about this in, so many individuals? So you're saying again that this homeless person who just lives for their next fix, okay, chose to come into such a family, such a kind of family, in order for an experience, perhaps, who am I to say from this limited point of view? Who am I to say? Who am I to say? And so that's it. I don't know. I really don't know these things. And so do I blame the homeless person for being homeless? Do I blame the guy who comes and rips out the copper piping from the house and almost floods my house, or the house that I live in? Water switched off for 48 hours, and he goes and sells the copper piping for literally what costs for a cup of coffee at Starbucks. And as he gets that money, he doesn't go buy food, he goes and buys some more drugs. And then he's back at it again. What do you do? There's much more to be spoken about here, folks. Much more to be spoken about. How the correctional facilities, jails, prisons, whatever, what a sham they really are. How true healing is completely avoided in our society. People aren't getting the help and support that they need. And there is no one to give it. There is no one to give it, so it's like it's a tough call, folks. It's a tough situation that we are all in, that every human being on this planet is in. And so what I can leave you with is just don't give up. I mean, I'm saying that for now, but just don't give up. Just keep on keeping on, and just see where it takes you. Regardless of what it is. I don't know. I hope one day I don't have to eat my own words. That's taking responsibility for what I'm saying and being realistic about it. Alright, folks, past my bedtime. You've made it this far. I certainly appreciate it. You're probably only the 22% of the people, however many views of this video has got, that have made it this far. So I do appreciate you taking the time. I really do. It means a hell of a lot to me. And wishing you well. Take care.